Hey there guys, we're looking at God of War running on the AMD Athlon 5500U. Now this CPU is currently running on an HP laptop that I just got in that I'm so excited to try out. Now this is with 8 gigabytes of RAM. That's very important because we've been testing this CPU out with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now the reason for that is because most of the time when you find this specific chip in the $500 to $600 price range, or usually even like lower than that, it tends to fluctuate between $400 to $600. You will always find it with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Very rarely are you going to find it actually having 16. Now, the benefit here is that this is upgradable, but I am testing it out with the stock 8 that it comes with, and the performance that we're getting is actually very mediocre. This is running at the lowest possible settings at 1080p is like the display resolution, but the actual render resolution is half of that. It is 50%. So we're running at pretty much like 540p right now. Now I'm using the built-in temporal upscaler that the game comes with. I'm not using FSR or anything like that because of the fact that I personally don't like how FSR looks in this game compared to the temporal upscaler that it actually already has. For that reason, I don't use FSR. If you're a fan of FSR, if you like how it looks compared to this, then you could always just use that. It's going to be the exact same render resolution target as if we were using FSR in performance mode. Now overall, the performance that we're getting here is just very mediocre, and I think it's just a situation where we are RAM limited like crazy. This is running at 3200 speed, so it's not a speed issue that we're running to necessarily. Obviously, if we had DDR4X, we'd be able to squeeze out a little bit better bandwidth for the integrated graphics, but this is about as good as you're going to be able to get on normal SODIMM RAM. If we drop the resolution down to 720p and set the in-game render resolution to 50% of that, which is 360p, we can actually manage to get some pretty decent performance. We did the exact same thing with the 1135 G7, and the performance here is a little better than that in that it just feels way more consistent. The frame times are really what matters the most here in that they are just significantly smoother. This was pretty playable. I would say that this is actually beat out the 1135 G7, even though it has half of the, memory available. But for sure, I feel like 1080p should have been able to perform at least a bit better than what it actually did. But that might just be a RAM issue. And we'll see when I actually manage to get some more RAM to throw in on here so we can do some comparison tests. This is definitely going to be one of those games that I'm going to be testing out to see if 16 gigabytes of RAM will actually make a difference. As it stands though, this is actually a pretty decent performance for 720. Well, let's be real, this is 360p. It looks pretty good for 360p, gotta say. The temporal upscaling that is built into the game is actually really good. Like, if this was under FSR, there would be a noticeable blur to it, but the upscaler built into this is just nice enough that it's not completely visually offensive. I mean, honestly, you could get away with playing that here, although on the 15-inch screen on this laptop, 360p does start to become kind of a problem, even if it is temporally upscaled to 720p. Although you could get away with it. Personally, I would not play a game like this on this lowest settings. It's just one of those things where I feel like it's too focused on the set pieces and the scale of it all for you to really enjoy it to the proper level.